start. Okay, so maybe just before I start, let me just share the poll results. So majority of the people here, you're all parents, okay? And then in terms of confidence level, like what Nick shared, okay, there's only one person who's confident. The rest, majority of them are not sure, and that's the reason why we are here today, okay? We are here to answer most of your questions, all right? So later at the end, there will be a FAQ session whereby we have already tried to predict most of the questions you will ask. But of course, if you miss out any, do just feel free to ask us near the end of the session. Okay, most people's biggest concern over here is quite even. Choosing wrong subject, don't know whether your child can cope, unsure about future career options, okay? So this will all be covered in our webinar today. Then currently, oh my god, really, math. Your child enjoy doing math. Do you all never see your child suffer doing math, man? Because they haven't seen A math, right? Okay, yeah. Later we will share also. Okay, so for the last part, right, the last question was, which statement do you think is true? So we have combined science cannot enter JC. Okay, we have A math is compulsory for engineering in poly, and you must take triple science to become a doctor. Okay, the truth is, all these are false. All these three are false. Okay, so later we will share with you why are they false, and we will let you know what's the correct one. Okay, so I will just keep the poll here, then we will just start with the webinar now. Okay, so today's webinar, the topic is how to choose the best subject combination. Okay, so today we have me and teacher Nick. Yeah, so if you all don't know who am I? I'm the secondary science HOD. Right, so just a little history about myself. I was in Catholic High from primary all the way to secondary school. Yeah. Then afterwards, I got into Nanyang JC, and then I moved to NUS. In NUS, I was doing com science. Sorry, not com science. I was doing communication and new media. Yeah.
Okay, hi, I'm Teacher Nicholas. I am the head of the secondary school math department. Okay, I was from Bukit Panjang Government High. Okay, all the Westies should know the school. Okay, we used to pride ourselves as the RI of the West. Okay, I'm not sure if this is true anymore. Okay, I went to Pioneer JC afterwards. Okay, then I went to NUS. Okay, so you can obviously see where me and Teacher Sherming met lah. Okay, we basically met when we were in NUS. Okay, my major was in psychology. Okay. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so today we have six things for you guys. Sorry, next slide, please. Okay, today we have a few things for you guys. Okay, our introduction, of course. Okay, then next, okay, so those of you who came last year, they will be kind of switch up the order around. Okay, so we're gonna do the subject analysis first. Some new changes, which I think most of you are here for. Okay, the combinations, or rather the subject combinations. Okay, certain scenarios that you might meet as a student, okay, or eventually as a parent, okay, and then also eventually the last one, I think, where most of you will be a bit more engaged is during the FAQ session. Okay, so now we're going to go into the subject analysis first, okay, which is, I'm going to start this first with the math section. Okay, can we go into the subject analysis?
By the way, there's a question asking, is this relevant to IB? It's not the most relevant because IB doesn't practice this streaming exercise. Yeah.
Okay, let's move on into the math one. Okay, so before I share a bit more about A math and E math, okay, let me just kind of break down what happened or what we saw last year, okay, in the 2025 O levels. Okay, we realized that there was these three trends in general. Okay, the A math marks allocation was a lot more lenient. Okay, this means that usually when you see the question in like prelims, maybe it's worth like 4 marks. Then all of a sudden, when you go to O levels, the same exact question was worth like 6 marks. Okay, so this threw a lot of students off. Okay, because they felt like, how come I'm so used to like getting so little marks? Then suddenly in the exam, I mean, in O levels there was so much marks allocated. So this kind of threw a lot of the students off. But we believe that this is going to be the new trend. So I think students, you yourselves must take note lah. Okay. There was also more mixture of A math and E math concepts. So prior to 2025, most of the papers was very like A math is A math, E math is E math. Yeah, however, last year what we saw was in the E math paper, there was some A math concepts, and then in the A math paper there were some like E math concepts. Okay, so for those students who are going to take A math eventually, you definitely will have a much higher advantage. So just to share a lot of my E-math students who only took E-math, they went to calculate their scores, they got like 70 plus, and then came out, their answers was like, sorry, their results was like B3. Okay, and then of course you have your A-math students who calculated, oh, I got 80 plus, 90 plus, then that's where they get their A1 and their A2. So of course the bell curve for E-math definitely will be a lot tougher lah, for those who only take the E-math paper. Okay. However, with that said, the E-math techniques are not required to solve the E-math paper. However, the understanding and the syllabus does help in the coverage of the things that's being mixed inside. Okay, another very important thing to note is I believe okay that doing the 10-year series will no longer be the reason why you get your A1 and A2. Okay, B3 yes, A2 maybe. Okay, but if you really want to get your A1 and A2, 10-year series will not be the way anymore because in 2025, okay, the setters really came up with a lot of new concepts. Okay, and a lot of concepts that require a lot more like more in-depth understanding. Okay, so TYS is no longer the answer to everything. Okay, so a lot more like prelim papers, okay, you have to go and try. Okay, okay, so let me talk a bit about EMAth. Okay, so for those of you who are not so sure what EMAth is basically a continuation of what you guys are doing in Set 1 and Set 2. Okay, so eventually what you're going to be tested on for the EMAth exam will be Set 1 to Set 4 topics. So a total of about 35 to about 40 topics in one exam. Okay, do I think that E-math is difficult? The answer is not really. I think it's okay. Okay, I think so long as you study well, you practice, you should not be doing too badly for your E-math. Okay, time needed, I wouldn't say a lot as well. Relevance to JC, not as much. Okay, the only topics that are relevant to JC is algebra. Okay, and then also majority of your Set 4 topics. Okay, uh, why do I feel that EMAth may potentially be a difficult case? Because of the real life application questions. Okay, so for those people who are not so sure, usually as the last question of your EMAth paper, there will be this like real life applications. So it could be anything in the world. It can be like, oh, I want to make bubble tea. Okay, the bubble tea cup is like this shape. How do you calculate the volume and surface area, that kind of thing. Okay, so EMAth is basically what you have been experiencing in Set 1 and Set 2. Okay, and then we're just bringing in the tougher topics in Sec 3 and Sec 4. Okay, so good news or bad news to your EMAth compulsory to take. Okay, you don't have a choice. Yeah, it's just whether you're taking G2 or G3 lah. Okay. Okay, so some examples that you might want to see. Okay, so so you pardon my handwriting. Okay, some of them not written very nicely. Okay, these were some of the questions that came out in last year's EMAth paper. Okay, they are considered as a bit weird. Okay, not so similar to the last few years lah. Okay, so there was a really different or difficult explanation question. Okay, there was a graph question that we have never seen before in the last few years. Okay, next. Okay, and then there's also all of these things, okay, where you have your explanation, okay, a lot of like explanation. Okay, so okay, you gotta be ready for all these explanation kind of questions. Okay, so if you hate your English or your English is not great, please go and study your English. Okay, you have to know how to explain. Okay, next. Okay, so eventually what we're looking for in the EMAth paper, okay, is around 45% of your basic foundations, how to apply your how to do your algebra, how to do your normal sums and division. Okay, another 40% will be based off on applications. Okay, however, take note that the AO3, okay, is what I'm talking about in terms of explaining the concepts. So a lot of using words to explain, using sentences to explain, this takes up about 15% of the entire grades. Okay, so if you are someone that know that you want to get A1 eventually for O levels, you must be able to explain your concepts very well. Okay, okay, let's move on to AMAth. Okay, AMAth definitely way more difficult. Time needed also a lot more. Relevance to JC, definitely super relevant. Okay, whatever that you do in AMAth, everything you will see again in JC. Okay, be it H1 math or H2 math, you will use everything that you learn in AMAth lah. Okay, so the main bulk of it is your calculus, your trigo, and then a few topics here and there. Okay, so definitely one of the tougher subjects that you will encounter as you go up to from Sec 2 to Sec 3. Okay, and a lot of misconceptions are students who did very well in Sec 2, 80 plus percent, 90 plus percent. Okay, they go in EMF thinking, oh, I definitely will do well. The answer is no. okay, you might fail your first few exams also. Okay, so it's not just because you did well in Sec 2, then you're going to do well for AMF also. Okay, okay, so we're going to see a few questions, okay, of last year's paper. Okay, you can see the first question of last year's paper. Okay, you can see that the working very short. Okay, but what you are being awarded is 5 marks. Okay, then you can see for the other question, 7 marks. Okay, actually the working is not a lot. Okay, so I'm not sure is it because I'm the one that's doing it, that's why the working not a lot. Okay, because I know what I'm doing. Okay, yeah, but then but essentially the marks allocated is really quite nice. Okay, in that sense. Typically, I would maybe give like a 3 marks for the first question and maybe like a 4 marks for the second question. So yeah, during O levels, they're quite lenient with the marks. Basically, they're looking more for your understanding of concepts rather than just spamming, like, sorry, just like spamming working. Okay. Okay, next we're going to see the next questions as well. Okay, same thing, same issues. You see the working, 7 steps, 7 marks. Then maybe around like 10 steps is like 6 marks. So really quite lenient with how they are scoring. Okay, so this is a live proof from last year's paper, basically. Okay. Okay, for AMAth as well, quite similar weightage. Okay, for AMAth, there is lesser foundations tested because there's a lot of applications. How you're going to use your differentiation in the real life context. Okay, how you're going to use maybe your quad functions in a real life context as well. Okay, however, one thing that stays the same is your AO3, which is the same exact thing that you're supposed to do in EMAF, okay, which is 15% is used to explain things. Okay, so be it EMAF or AMAF, you have to know how to explain. Okay, okay, and as I'm going along, okay, those of you who have any questions, just drop your questions into either the Q&A section. If not, you can just ask in the chat. Okay, yeah, so this pretty much sums up the two maths that you'll be looking at when you go up to Sec 3.
Okay, so now is the science introduction. Okay, so science, of course, we have bio, chemistry, and physics. So we start off with pure chemistry first. Okay, so for pure chemistry, definitely over here in Singapore is considered the foundation for all sciences. So you definitely need chemistry. Chemistry is compulsory for most school, but increasingly, I noticed that there are a few schools, like for example MGS, and NYGH. They actually allow students to just choose one science, like maybe just one physics or maybe just one bio. They allow this kind of variation now. So this one, please check with your school. Okay, your school will most likely conduct their own subject combination talk as well. So make sure to pay attention to that. Okay, if not, for most schools, still the same. Chemistry will still be compulsory for most of them, right? In terms of difficulty wise, we have noticed that there's actually a lot of things to memorize in chemistry as well. So, be it certain formulas to remember, certain observations to remember, there are actually certain things you really have to memorize before you can enter the exam and then apply it. Okay, so chemistry is you have to memorize first and understand, then you can go inside the exam to apply, which is why in this case I would say the difficulty is 8. Yeah. Uh, Relevance to GC definitely quite high because most of the people when they take pure chemistry, once they go JC they will also take chemistry, right? And of course, if you are looking to study medicine, this is compulsory. Okay, so chemistry is actually compulsory for medicine studies. Okay, so this is just a one example of a question. And then for recent years, they have also been trying to expose students to more long database questions like this question over here. So just for information, this is one of the O-level question. Basically, before they even go to question part A, this is all the information that the student has to digest. This is one question, by the way. One question. Okay, this is called database question. So increasingly, there are many in every paper there will be one type of this kind of question. Okay, so I like what teacher Nicholas mentioned just now. I think nowadays is really all just doing the TYS is not enough. You need exposure. I think the best way for exposure over here is to attempt other schools' prelim paper. Okay, next we have physics. Okay, physics seems very daunting to a lot of students. Okay, so however, you'll be surprised. The difficulty wise here, I actually put as 7. All right, because for physics, right, once you get past the hurdle of understanding what it is, you will actually realize it's very easy to apply the concept. Yeah, and in general for physics, once you can understand something, you don't really need to memorize. The only thing you have to really memorize in physics is the formulas. That's all, right? But the thing is, if your math foundation is actually quite strong, if you manage to memorize the formulas, application of the formula is very easy. Needless to say, if you need to do some manipulation, then it will be quite easy as well, right? What I notice usually from my students, okay, they will say, "Sure, I study so hard for chemistry. I also study very hard for physics, but somehow, sometimes the chemistry score may be slightly lower." Yeah. Okay. Anyway, this one, the relevance to JC, it also depends, but definitely if your child or maybe you are exploring science related careers next time, I would say chemistry and physics is actually quite relevant, okay, in terms of engineering as well. And I would want to say for physics, right, it requires the least memorization compared to bio and chem. Okay. So on the left side over here, same thing, this is a question. Okay, usually they will ask you to calculate, you just need to throw in the formula, then you just apply the formula. Okay, of course, there will also be certain questions over here whereby you need to understand the mechanism. Okay, they will show you different mechanisms like motors, they will show you like static rods, then they will ask you, explain how does this happen, explain how does this happen, describe what will happen next, describe what will happen next. As long as you understand the mechanism of how the thing works, usually explanation won't be very difficult. Okay, for bio, of course, the most to memorize, all right, and definitely the most time consuming. And I think what students always tell me is this, that they struggle to constantly have time to memorize for bio. What I mean is this, like for example, um, when you finish Sec 3 bio, when you move on to Sec 4, when students are struggling trying to keep up with Sec 4, they do find themselves often not have enough time to revise and recall Sec 3 bio topics, right? So usually what happens is that nearing the June, before their prelims, before their O levels, then they will start to try to memorize everything again. And that's the reason why they always feel like, wow, it's very suffocating, like, wow, there's so many things to memorize. Because they always leave to until the June period to try to memorize the whole thing again. Yeah, so that's the tough part about bio. So I mean, if let's say any of you all here, you know your child got picture memory, all these things, then that's their advantage. Okay, so I would highly recommend that they take bio. Okay. Uh so next, this is like some of the bio question. So you have a lot of things to memorize. You need to memorize definitions. You need to memorize the effects of certain diseases. You need to explain why certain diseases are caused. Okay, and also there's a lot of describe. Okay, so in general, you'll see many questions will be like 3 marks, and stuff like that. There's quite a lot of points to write. Okay. Okay, so then of course we also have combined science, right? Combined science is actually a increasingly favorable option because right now they are actually trying to put less emphasis in academics, right? They want you to pursue your interests and stuff like that. So actually I see a trend whereby many people are taking combined science now. But of course, combined science have its downside, okay? Which I will share later in the FAQ. But in general, if your child always struggle with science, okay, combined science is actually a good option because in terms of difficulty wise, it's really very easy. Okay, but of course, there's one very prominent downside is this. You have to take two sciences, okay, only then their results will be added together and then divided by two. So for you to do well in combined science, it also means that you have to do well in both sciences. Yeah, so that's the challenging part. Yeah. Okay. The questions in these exams are really rather straightforward and easy to score. So usually I always tell my student this: if you are in combined science and you still don't do well, it just means that you are lazy or you never put in enough hard work. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Okay. So I think some of you are not so sure about the new changes to either poly or JC. So just to reiterate first, this will be only true from, so if I were to put it in very simple words for you guys, from this year's Sec 3 batch onwards. So if you have any sibling or any cousins or whatever who are in Sec 4 this year, okay, this is not applicable to them. Okay, so only from this year Sec 3 onwards, which is basically Sec 3 and like below lah. Okay, so we put there 2027 because the kids will be taking their the new O levels, okay, which we call it Singapore Cambridge, okay, in 2027. However, they will only be admitting to poly or JC in 2028. Okay, so right now, based on the new SEAB requirements, if you are taking G1 or G2 or G2 slash G3, that means you have a mix of both, okay, then you will only take 6 subjects. Okay, because from here, okay, you are only required your best, sorry, not your best, but your overall 5 of your subjects. So 6 is technically a little bit more than enough. Okay. However, if you are intending to go to a JC, okay, definitely you need to be G3 or you need at least 5 G3 subjects. However, if you are in a full G3 stream, okay, what is important is you can take 6 or 7 or 8 subjects. Okay, so we're going to be showing you some changes to your JC systems. Okay, I'm not sure if some of the parents are also aware. Okay, so the next few slides will be quite important to you guys. Okay, you can take a photo. Okay, feel free to take a photo. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so this is your pathways from 2028. So back in our times, okay, even me or the Teacher Ming times, right? Okay, and some of the parents here, okay, 6 G3 subjects is the it's like the bare minimum, right? We need 6 G3 subjects in order to get into your JC. Okay. However, because now they're going to change into your L1 R4 instead of L1 R5, okay, which we'll share later. Okay, you realize that taking 5 G3 subjects is enough. Okay, which also mean that if your child is taking, let's say, 7 subjects, but they are taking 5 G3 and 2 G2, okay, they are still eligible to go into sorry, they're still eligible. Sorry, they're still eligible to go into JC. Okay, however, they cannot use their G2 subjects to go into JC. They have to use the 5 G3 subjects. Okay, so here there are some changes. You might be a bit confused. Okay, if you are not too sure, you can always just PM and let us know. Okay. However, if you take anything that is less than 5 G3 subjects, okay, that means 4 and below. Okay, that means let's say 4 G3 and 1 G2. Okay, you realize that you no longer are eligible to enter either MI or JC. So this is something that you guys need to know quite well. Okay, and if you do take your 5 G2 subjects, you realize you cannot enter poly directly. Okay, so it's quite important that you understand that you need at least 4 G3 subjects and 1 G subject to enter poly directly. Okay, if not, you have to enter PFP, which is Poly Foundation Program, okay, which is like a pre-program to poly. And then afterwards, based on your results, then they will determine whether you are eligible to enter poly in the first year. Okay, so a lot of new. Okay, you all need to take note. Okay, especially for the 5 subjects change from 6 subjects. Okay, for those of you who are maybe in the G1 stream, okay, you also have a chance to enter your ITE year 2. Okay, so this one is, I think, not so much of what we are trying to talk about today, lah. Okay, more of the G2 and the G3 side. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so for your JC or your NI, okay, now it's L1R4, not L1R5 anymore. Okay, so the new cutoff for JC is no longer at 20 points, it's at 16 points. So please take note, not 20 anymore. You take 20, you cannot go. 17 also cannot go. Okay, your poly is your ELR2B2. Okay, and then your PFP year 1, you are taking your EL, your MA, and then your B3. So B stands for best, R stands for relevant. Okay, that means you're looking at your relevant 2, your best 2, and for PFP, you're looking at your best 3. Okay, you have your higher NITEC as well, and then you also have your NFP. Okay, which is a bit more niche lah. Okay. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Okay, so again, this is your changes to entries criteria to JC. Okay, again from 20 to 16. Okay. Okay, you also realize that because of this, your subjects required is also from 6 to 5. Okay, so the only change here is we're just removing away one of your best subject. Okay, we're looking at just your 3 best subjects outside of your R1, which is usually your humanities. Okay, and then your L1, okay, which is your English or your high mother tongue. Okay, so I know there are a lot of students who also have this mindset, oh, I can choose which subject that I want to pick to put into my L1 R5. The answer is no, it's not. You want to suka take this and then do that. No, okay, it's not. Okay, so your R1 must be a humanities. Okay, so if let's say you take SS plus something, that is considered as one humanities. Or you take pure geog or pure lit, okay, that is considered as one humanities. Your R1, your L1, sorry, must be English or your higher mother tongue. Okay, that one, you cannot fight lah. Okay, must be a higher mother tongue or English. Okay, your R2 must be either best math or science. Okay, so I say again, you cannot give up entirely on all your math and science subjects. You must either put your E-math, A-math, your chem, your physics, or your combined or your bio, whatever, into R2. Okay, only R3, R4. Okay, then can you pick any next of your best scoring subjects. Okay, so this one important. Not your own self want to choose whichever that you put. Okay, then you get the score. Okay. Okay, so I will talk a bit about the new JC system. Okay, so back in our times, it was 90 rank points. I'm not sure if you guys remember that. Okay, however, from very recent changes, instead of 90, they're looking at 70 rank points now. Okay, which means that they no longer count your H1 subject. So if you see the fourth row, right, there's a bolded row. Okay, they no longer count your H1 subject. So let's say I'm a biochem and math student. There's H2, H2, H2. Okay, my 70 rank points will come from only my H2 subjects. Okay, so when will I count the H1 subject? Only if I throw it in and it improves my total rank points. Then I will throw in the last H1. Okay, of course, GP is counted as well. Okay, and then back in nowadays, again, PW was A, B, C, D scoring. However, they're also going to change. PW is no longer graded, it will be pass or fail. Okay, but to be very honest, very hard to fail your PW lah. If you fail PW means you never do work. Okay, and then some of you might also be taking your mother tongue. Right, for those of you who don't take higher mother tongue or you didn't pass your higher mother tongue well enough, okay, those will only be counted in relevant courses. That means if let's say your major in uni, okay, is like Chinese something, yeah. Okay, I have a question. What is PW? It's called project work. So essentially, in your first year of your JC, you are supposed to complete a project with a group of maybe 4 to 5 people. Yeah, okay, then a group project, but it's a 1 year group project. Yeah, so it's last time it was graded, now it's not graded. Now it's just either you pass it or you fail it. Yeah. Okay, so most uni courses will look at that and also take into account and see whether, or is it like you slack or you help your team, that kind of thing. So there'll be presentation, there'll be reports to write, there'll be reflections to write and things like that. So it's kind of like to get you to understand how potentially the real world might be like. Okay. H1, H2. Yes, H1, H2 is like the level. H2 is like the higher level. H1 is like the lower level. Yeah, difficulty level. So most students must minimally take 3 H2 subjects. Those of you who are very Taiwan, you can take 4 H2 subjects. Yeah, but that one is not really the point of us as in of this talk. Okay, we can always share more lah, okay, afterwards. So H2 is just higher level in terms of its content wise. Okay. Okay, next, let's move on to the next one.
Sorry,
Okay.
just in case anybody is don't understand how does this table works. So for example, let's say today I'm a science, I enter JC as a science stream. Okay, so I'll be taking this subject, this subject, this subject, 3 H2 level. Okay, and then my fourth subject over here, I can choose. Okay, maybe I can take H1 science. I can choose to take a H1 science or I can choose to take a H1 humans. Okay, then after that, I have 3 other H1 subjects like GP, PW, and my Chinese mother tongue. Yeah, so this is like how it works. So basically, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 7 subjects to take.
Okay, we have quite a few questions about JC stuff, so I'll just answer very quickly. What about FMath? FMath is extra thing on top of H2 math. So FMath is like if you're really good at math, then you take as an extra thing. So it's not in your H1, H2. Yeah, so we have H2 math, which is what everybody takes, or H1 math, but FMath is like extra. Yeah, so you can think of it as like a extra program that you can take because you are interested in math. I have another question from ST Tan. I'm not sure if I understand the wording of the question. Maybe you want to rephrase again. Yeah.
Mm.
Like what
Okay,
is
let me
H1 or
see.
H2 subject? Hmm. Yeah, okay, but it's okay. We can move on first. Okay. Okay. So, what does this change means? Okay, this change means okay that we definitely okay don't need so many subjects anymore. Okay. Hence, honestly speaking, 7 subjects right now is kind of like more than sufficient. Back then, we are taking about 8 or 9 subjects, right? However, now they don't really recommend them to take 8 or 9 anymore. It's more of like 7 to 8. Some schools are even just capping purely to like 6 or like 7 subjects. Okay, so depends on the school. Some schools offer more, some schools don't really offer. Okay, I think what MOE is trying to do here is to really encourage the students to spend a bit more time okay, on other things beyond just like studying. Okay, and also like the CCAs, okay, or like volunteering and things like that. Okay. Okay, however, what do we feel about this? Okay, I think that is the main like issue here. Okay, can we go to the next slide, please? Okay. Okay, so based on the new L1 R4 system, you see 16, you see the bonus points, that means your high mother tongue and your CCA is now capped at 3. So back then was 4, now it's 3. Okay, you realize that your best raw score dropped by 1. The best net score also dropped by 1. So to be very honest, what we feel, okay, if you are at the extreme ends, that means you are a really, really, really good student, or you are not so good, that means you are like just at the tail end of like JC. Okay, this system doesn't really affect anything. Okay, the elites will still have to score 2 points, right? Those of you who want to barely make it into JC is still at the tail end. Okay, however, the middle tier JCs, okay, will be very competitive because of this. Okay, so but also because there is technically less focus on like there's one less subject to like worry about, right? So we also feel that maybe it'll be easier for the students to manage because instead of like having to worry about 9 subjects, now they can worry only about like 7. Okay, on average maybe about 6 or like to 8 lah. Okay, so maybe in terms of workload wise, the students will feel a bit better. Okay, however, the students who are looking to go in top schools like your RIs and your Hwa Chongs, you still have to focus on everything. Okay, just because the bonus points drop, okay, doesn't mean that you have it easier because everybody is going to, I mean, sorry, all the elite students are still going to get 2 pointers, right? So how do I differentiate who is entering Hwa Chong or like RI? Okay, it's really your CCA, your leadership positions, your portfolios. So still important for you to have all of those things. Okay.
Okay, next. So there are also some changes to Polytechnic. Okay, so just to share, because it's an increasing trend whereby more students actually want to go to poly after secondary school. So to enter poly, right, you need to have for 2028 intake, okay, you need to have one English, you need to have your R1, R2, you need to have your B1. Okay, basically R1, R2 is your relevant subjects to the related to the poly course that you want. Okay, and then after that, the fourth one is a B1. B1 basically means your best subject out of the remaining. Okay, these 4 subjects, if you look at the first bullet point, okay, over here, it has to be G3 subjects. Meaning to say, okay, please check with your child now. If your child is taking G3 English, they are eligible for poly. But if they are taking G2 English, straight away poly year 1 is out of the question. Okay, because the requirement here is these 4 subjects, EL, R1, R2, and B1, they must be G3 level. Okay, and then the 5th subject that they're using here, okay, the last B2 over here can either be a G2 or G3 subject. Okay, and if let's say your child is 5 G3 subject, the last subject, okay, it will be mapped over to a G2 grade. Later, there will be a scenario. We will give scenarios to show you how does this mapping works. Okay. So for example, what I mean is this. So for example, let's say one student's his B2 subject, he got a B3. Okay. So over here, if let's say this student's B2 subject, he got a B3, for example. Okay. But when you counting the score, right, this B3 will be equivalent to 1. So his score will be a 1 because it will be the last subject will be mapped. Okay, if it's a G3 subject, it will be converted to a G2 equivalent grade. That's what it means. Okay, so later we will show you the scenario. But I think more importantly is the next slide. Okay, over here. So G3 English is essential for direct poly year 1 admission. Okay, if you do not have G3 English, you are doing G2 English, means that your next best option will be PFP, the foundation program. Okay. Okay, then we move on.
Okay, so these are the combinations for your if you are going to Sec 3 as a G3 student. Okay, essentially very simple, right? You have your few subjects that is compulsory, like English, okay, which counted as your L1, okay, or you can use higher mother tongue if you have it. Okay, you have your social studies plus a humans elective, okay, which is your second relevant subject. Okay, and then you have your elementary math, which is an E-math compulsory as well, and then mother tongue or higher mother tongue, which is either your R4, it can be used as one of the subjects, if not your L1. Okay, so for the rest, like AMath, combine or pure science, okay, your core humanities, okay, your POA, your lead history, your music program, your art program, so on and so forth. Okay, I know some of you are also talking about sports science. Okay, sports science, I myself am not very sure. Okay, if you should make those, you can add. Okay, because I think not a lot of students usually take that at the G3 level lah. Yeah, so but we will do a check for you. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so we will get back to you. Okay. But 6, 7, and 8 subjects is essentially chem is compulsory. You have to take it, be it pure or combined. You pick two, you pick three, you pick four on top of whatever that you're doing. Okay. Of course, if you are very YOLO and you're very strong, right, you can do 9 subjects. But I think most schools don't really encourage that anymore lah. So usually now we see the highest is like 8. Then if you want wanted language, then you go for 9. But you feel like very tired lah. Okay. Okay, next, let's move on to the next one. So if you are a G2 student, okay, that means you are mainly in G2, okay, quite similar, okay, quite similar concept. Okay, you might be offered more electives, okay. I think there's some like design and technology. There's also like food economics, the kind of extra electives. Okay, so essentially the system didn't really change that much. It's just how many subjects for the G3 stream that they are required to take. Okay, okay, let's move on. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly go through this slide. So ripple effect. Okay, why are we having this talk? Because some of you may not know. Okay, what are some of the requirements that you need to have? Okay, when you're going to JC, to poly, to eventually uni. Okay, you cannot pick a subject in JC. Halfway through, you realize, oh my God, I want to take something in maybe like uni, and you cannot go there because you never take. So for example, if you want to go for like aerospace engineering, right? A good pass in H2 math. Then if you never take H1 math, sorry, if you never take H2 math, then you, oh my God, I cannot go there. Okay, or H2 pass in physics, chem, bio, computing, okay, so on and so forth. Then I never take any of those. That means you went into a wrong stream, okay, thinking that you still can go into that field when you are going to like uni. So you must be a bit careful, especially those of you who have dreams of like going like engineering. You must know what you must take. Okay, those more like general courses like business, not so much, but of course, there's still a few things that you must take note of. Okay. Okay, let's go down next slide. Okay, so this is just a very quick summary of how can you pick your combinations. Okay, some of you is this, okay, you know what you want to do already. You know 10 years later, I want to open my own business firm, right? I want to do this and I want to do that. And then, okay, so I want to go to business. Then you go and search, okay, to go into business, what must I have? Okay, good pass in math, then you follow that. Okay, then you take based on that. Okay, however, some of you are like, wow, I'm 15 years old, I'm 14 years old. I don't know what I want to do. Okay, which is quite normal, right? So you follow your passion, you follow what you feel you can score the best. Let's say you are just interested in like geog and like history, but you really, really hate math. So I take more humanities, I don't take so much of math. Okay, or you really, really love science and math, but you don't take humanities, then you just follow whatever that you feel that you can score the best. Because at the end of the day, truth to be told, we still look at your results, right? As like a first line of like indicator of where you are going to go. So you need to be able to score well. Okay, like you might be interested, but you don't score well. In the end, you still may not get what you want to do. Okay. Okay, let's move on to the next part, okay, which is some scenarios. Okay, so eventually you'll be taking your O levels, okay, and so something some of you all ask, right? What is the pros and the cons of taking like six subjects versus 8 subjects? Okay, so let's say we have this guy here, Jonathan, okay, a proud student of Blue Tree Academy. Okay, every day go Starbucks, but I think now nobody goes Starbucks already. Everybody go Luckin already. Yeah, I also love Luckin. Okay, hashtag not sponsored. Okay, okay, so let's say they are taking almost identical subjects. So you can see the first 6 subjects are all the same. Okay, and then you see the results identical also. Wow, A1, B3, A2, A1, B4, B3. Okay, did you do very well? Okay, not bad lah. Okay, not the best lah. Okay, then the second person, right, 8 G3 subjects, but they did so well for A math and geog, A2, A2. Okay, because of how the L1, R4 is eventually computed, right? Okay, the person who is taking the 6 subjects don't really have much choice to pick. Okay, so even though you see that, oh, this person got B3 for Chinese, but because they only have one humanities, which is SS plus lit, they are forced to use this B4. So like I said again, you cannot own self pick, oh, I want to put Chinese here, cannot. Okay, you must use what the government or what the system forces you to lah. Okay, however, for the person who is taking 8 subjects, even though they didn't do so well for SS plus Lit, they didn't do so well for Chinese and physics, but because they did better in A Math and Geog, okay, and remember, I'm only requiring one science or math, okay, I can put chemistry inside. I can do use physics. Then I take the next few best subjects, your E Math and your Geog and your A Math, okay, and then the Geog, because it's a humanities, I can replace it for SS plus Lit. So it end up, right, even though he didn't do so well for 3 subjects, but you realize that the score, 8 versus 11, okay, and you don't see 3 points, 8 versus 11 is very big difference. Okay, your 8 net minus 3, 5 can get you to maybe uh, the top 4 to the top 8 JCs already. But 11, you are maybe not any where near the top JCs lah. Okay, so important to note that having more subjects gives you a bit more room to play around with the L1, R4 score. Okay, and but of course the downside here is the more subjects you have, the more you have to study. Okay, okay. Next, I have Agnes. Okay, a very happy person. Okay, however, she crammed a lot last minute lah. Okay, never do as well. Okay, 6 subjects versus 7 subjects. Okay, however, okay, you realize that the main difference here, okay, is that she did another extra literature, okay, which is the A2. Okay, and like I said earlier, the A2, because it's a humanities subject, okay, is able to replace your SS plus history. So they didn't really take very significantly different number of subjects. Okay, however, because the person who took 7 has a more spread out. That means they have 2 math, they have 3 math and science, they have 2 humanities. That allows them to play around with the fact that, oh, maybe they messed up their SS plus history, but I use literature instead. Okay, and hence the score difference also from 12 to 9. Okay, you minus already from 6 and 9. So also quite a big difference in terms of the scores lah. Okay, so it is important that you know what are your strengths. Number 2, you must also know that sometimes having safety net, okay, is also quite important.
Okay, next one, we are talking about poly admission. Okay, so poly admission, scenario A, we have Brian. Okay, so for poly, first I have to let you all know, right? Poly, they have different courses. Okay, there are many different courses. They categorize the courses into 4 categories. We have category A, we have category B, category C, and category D. Okay, so over here, what I'm showing you is category B. Category B is actually related to like a lot of things like business, and a bit of engineering and business. So over here, because you are in the category B, so my R1 over here, it has to be a math. Okay, my R1 here, it has to either be A math or the E math. So which is why over here my R1 is G3 math. Okay, so as you can see over here, this is my 7 G3 subjects. So I'll have my first EL, which is my English, taken into the counting. I'll have my R1 as my math, my R2 as my chemistry, and then my remaining best subject, B1 and B2, which is Chinese and then additional math. Okay, and this is the, if we focus on additional math, notice over here, there's this thing called mapping. This is the thing that I mentioned just now. So because, right, to enter poly, okay, you only need 4 G3 and 1 G2, right? So technically, if you take 5 G3, if you use 5 G3 to calculate, you're like counting extra. So they will reward you by mapping it to a G2 grade. So in G3 terms, I got a B3, but it will be considered a +1, okay? Which is why over here, my last one here is a +1. So because of that, my total aggregate score will be 2 plus 1 plus 2 plus 1 plus 1, which gives you 7. 2, 1, 2, 1, and 1, which gives you a total of 7. Okay? And then after that, you minus 2 CCA points. Okay, for poly admission, you only can minus 2, not minus 3. Minus 3 is for JC. So for poly, it's minus 2. So you get a net score of 5, which is considered pretty good. Okay? So this is for scenario 1. Okay, now let's go to scenario B. Okay, so now this student is doing 4 G3 and 2 G2 subjects. So he doesn't have all G3 subjects. So he only got 4 G3, which is like the minimum that is required for poly admission, right? So 4G3 and 2G2. So take a look. His EL is G3. That's is fixed. R1, he's also using mathematics. R2, okay, he's using combined science. Okay. And then for the B1 and B2, okay, take note, the B1 have to be the POA, and then the B2 will be the Chinese. Okay. Why? Because for the you cannot use you got two G2 subjects, right? You have to choose one G2 subjects to be used as the last B2. Okay. So of course you won't use the humanities, right? Because the humanities, as you can see over here, he got C6. So I have no choice. I have to use Chinese, which is a B3. Okay, but in this case, right? Sorry, 3, 3, 2, 3. Yeah. In this case, right, you see, even though I got a B3, it will be considered as a 3. It won't be mapped into a 1. Not like just now. Okay. So over here, you see 3, 3, 3, 3, 2, 2, and this 3, it will not be converted into a 1 because this is a G2 subject. Okay, so technically it means no matter what, this system, this poly admission is benefiting those students who are taking all G3 subjects. Okay, it will benefit them a bit. Then after, of course, the last one is a 1. Okay, so same thing, then this student got 10, and then minus 2 CCA point, then they will get a net score of 10. Okay, yep. So now that's all for the scenarios. Next.
Okay, so this section here is a bit more for the students. I mean, if parents, of course, you are interested, okay, you can use this to roast your kids. Okay, you can take a photo of this. Okay, so can we have the table out? Okay, so I'm going to play you four scenarios. Okay, where I show you four different students. Okay, this is not real life context. I mean, I don't have students who are like that. Hopefully not. Hopefully not. Okay, so this first student, wow, WA1 10% failed. WA2, 15% also failed. WA3, wow, 15% also failed. Wow, die already, die already. Okay, end of it, 60%. Determine sure, I lock in, I lock in, lock in. Then 75 or 100, wow, suddenly A1. So confirm this student is smart one. Why? Cannot be you lock in, suddenly jump to 75. It must be you smart one. That means they slack in the first three WAs lah. Okay, or NSG, a lot of other activities, okay, mixed with bad friends, okay, have before. Okay, average. Even though your end of year was 60%, you got an A1 on the dot, your average is a 59.5. Okay, you went from an A1 at the end of year, but you are judged based on your average, hence you are now at a C5 grade. Okay, for most schools, for you to take A math, right, it is somewhere between passing to 60%. There are schools that is a bit more extreme, 70% overall for you to take A math. Okay, so if you happen to be one of those schools, you might not be able to take A math, even though actually your math is like not bad. So 59.5 maybe is like arguable. Okay, you might go and like appeal, but you realize that if you don't start early, or you are not consistent, or you did very badly in the first three WAs, unless you do super well for end of year, it's very hard to pull up your entire score. Okay, okay, let's see the next student. Sorry, so sorry, can we go back one slide? So the message here, okay, logging in only during end of year will not be sufficient. Okay, all my Sec 2 students here, please here, okay, not sufficient, not sufficient. Okay, let's go on to the next slide. Okay, you have this student here. Okay, WA1, WA2, WA3, wow, almost full marks, 29, 27, 30. Okay, then maybe something happened, maybe the pet, okay, unfortunately passed away, okay, or their boyfriend, girlfriend break up with them. Okay, you all shouldn't be having boyfriend, girlfriend at this age also. Okay, okay, then sad lah. Okay, get 63 out of 100, not so bad. Average, 75.5, very good. Okay, because the highest criteria I've seen in math needs is 70%. So 75 is confirm safe one. Okay, so do well early. Have your first three WAs help you set up a buffer. So if let's say you know, actually my math quite okay already, I need time to study other subjects. End of year, you can don't study that hard and still do decently well. Okay, end of year, you don't have to get full marks. Get 70, you are super safe already. So having that strong buffer early is very important. Okay, let's move on to the third student. Okay, third student here, okay, WA1, WA2 did very well, end of year also did very well. However, WA3, maybe same reason as the second person, something happened, you just somehow failed. Okay, so I have one student who is like that. Every WA3, Okay, every WA3, she will not do well. But then the rest she will get like high A1. I don't know what happened also. Sec 1 like that, Sec 2 like that, Sec 3 also like that. Now Sec 4 hopefully not lah. Okay. So average still 76%. So very good. Okay. So it's okay if you are consistent. If you mess up during one of the WAs, it's fine. Okay, you still have a very, very strong buffer there. Okay. Okay, last student. Okay, did decently well, okay, for WA1, WA2, WA3. So you can see like A1, A1, A2. Okay, 23 is a A1 by the way. Okay, 21 is a A2. Then suddenly end of year let go because very confident, I did so well already. Then 55 out of 100. Wow, average 63%. Okay, it's not that 63% is not good. Okay, you're just put in a very difficult spot, a very weird position where you are okay, but not okay enough for you to have the priority to go and select. Okay, so in case you all didn't know, every school they have like a certain number of seats for like let's say like double science physics and chem, double science bio and whatever. So if you do not get selected for those, end up you cannot pick those. You have to pick maybe your second or third choice. Okay, so even if you did decently well in the first three WAs, please don't let go. End of year is very, very, very important. Okay, so this one is really more for the students. Okay, for you all to know. Okay, that if you have a percentage like this, okay, that's how your scores are going to pan out. Okay, for the parents, you can use this to go and scare your child. Okay, okay, let's move on to the next part. Uh, Next slide. Oh, sorry, can we go back one more? Yeah. Okay, so one very strong message that we want to send to the students is this. Okay, really, your subject combination is not about choosing your classmates. Just because all your friends going to bio and chem, let's say, and then you don't like bio, right? Then you die go to bio and chem. Okay, it's not about that. Okay, friends can always make one. Okay, you will still see your friends in school. Okay, so don't because your friends are going to this class and then you want to follow them. Okay, it's never about that. You will regret your decision when you are failing, when you're getting one digit, you are like not doing well, going for 10 tuitions a week. Okay, you really, really will not like your decision. Okay. Okay, so we have a wise quote here for you. Okay, so sometimes you make the right decision, okay, but sometimes you don't, okay, but sometimes you make your decision that you pick right. Okay. Okay, so this is the end of our main section. Okay, now we're going to open up the Q&A. Okay, you can type in your questions into the chat. We will take our time to reply. Okay, okay, we just open up the floor now. Okay, any questions you guys can send it to us. Okay, then maybe we will start reading off some of the FAQs that we prepared earlier. Okay. Okay, I have a Q&A question. What about Mark Grades IP School? Sorry, could you rephrase what about Mark Grades IP School? Yeah. Okay. Another person asked, is it true that triple science is discouraged nowadays? Um, I'm not sure if it's discouraged. I just think that it's not encouraged. I don't know if that's the same meaning. Okay, but that's because I think a lot of people have this misconception that if I want to become a doctor or I want to enter a medicine-related field, I must take all three subjects. Okay, so that's not true. Okay, you just need to take chemistry, bio/physics. Okay, eventually when you go up to JC, you can only pick two of them. And then when you go into uni, then you get to have a bridging course where you study the other side that you didn't study before. Okay.
For IP schools, right? Some of them follow a 4.0 GPA system. Then there are some schools follow a 7.0 GPA system. So that one really depends on each school. So for that one, like 4.0 GPA, right? If let's say your child have been getting A plus for like every single exam, A plus for every single exam, then he will have a perfect score of GPA 4. Yeah. But that one is a different set of calculation. It's quite different from all levels.
So different IP schools have different grading systems. So for example, let's say like the more classic one, maybe like NJ, right? They have like A, B, C, D. Sorry, A they have B plus, B, C plus, D, yeah, that kind. So there is like a score, okay, and then they eventually either count as like your GPA, if not they count it as just a score, lor. Okay.
Okay, there's one question says, how useful would sports science be in the future? Okay, So unless you are really very sure that your child is really interested in sports science, okay, uh, having a head start in sports science in secondary school definitely will be helpful. All right. But I heard before of people who take sports science now just because they think it might be slightly easier. And then afterwards, when they start uh going to poly and then they go into uni, they realize that actually my interest changed. And then you realize that this subject that you took, right, will not even have any single benefit in terms of like keeping your options open. Yeah. Because I do have friends who found out that uh they found out that they are interested in sports science only when they're in university. So basically they during secondary school they keep their options as open as possible so that when they start growing up, then when they start to narrow down on their options, at that point in time they still can choose sports science. It's not too late.
Okay, there are two questions about career choices. Okay, so what would you recommend for pharmaceutical science? What would you recommend for aerospace? I think aerospace quite obvious, like must take physics, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, should be right. Yeah. Okay, so must take physics lah for
Confirm.
aerospace. For
Confirm need.
pharmaceutical science,
Chemistry.
biochem, I think biochem. But
No,
also
no.
depends on whether
Pharmaceutical science need physics.
only physics.
Yes,
Oh.
need physics.
I
Yeah.
think I think eventually need everything, but I mean, it would be good if you can take triple science, but it's not like required. Okay, when you go into poly, there will be a bridging course for you. Yeah, so I think it depends on which field of pharmaceutical science you want to enter. Is it the engineering side, or is it more of the like the biotech side? Then that will answer your question lah. Okay.
Nick, there's an interesting question. Maybe you can answer this. My child
You
is
can.
keen to do econs in JC.
Oh
What's
wow.
the
Okay.
recommended subject combi?
Wow. Not to humble brag, but as someone that taught the cohort in JC for Chem before, sorry for econs
Econs.
before, I didn't take econs in secondary school lah. So I don't know how to answer the question. But if you want to take econs as like one of the subjects, it's definitely relevant. But I have seen the materials before. It is very toned down. And I think if I'm not wrong, econs has a lot of like MCQ. But when you go into JC, there's no such thing as MCQ in like econs. It's all essay writings and stuff. So very different experiences. But of course, you get to know like the very technical jargons like demand, supply, your long term, your short term, your micro and macroeconomics. So I would say that whatever that you take in secondary school wouldn't really affect much. Yeah, but of course, if you're really interested in econs, you can take it and then you can score well. You can also read up by yourself lah. Okay, so I hope that answer your questions.
Okay,
Okay.
I have one question. So the child really likes art. Okay, taking if you are sure that you're gonna take art for O level, right? Then it really depends. Of course, if it's possible, I will still usually if you are taking arts, right, then your school will not allow you to take double pure science. Your school will actually make you take combined science. So this one, please check with your school. I so far the people I know who are taking art O level, they are all taking combined science. They cannot take two pure science. Yeah, based on the subject combination. Okay,
Okay, next.
is POA easy to score? I would say yes, relatively easy. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really quite easy to score.
Okay. Wait, well, there's quite a few questions coming in. Okay, we will take. Okay. Next one. Should I take triple science if I want to become a dermatologist? Um, should you if you can ensure that you score well in all three, why not? But it's not a requirement. Yeah, so just to clear up the air, taking triple science going into medicine field is not a requirement because at the end of the day, when you go into JC, you are only allowed to pick either chemistry bio or chemistry physics, or just take like one only. So you cannot take all three at once. Yeah. So again, it's not a requirement if you want to go into a medicine related field. Okay. Eventually there will be things that you have to learn when you reach the uni level lah. Okay.
Okay, I have one interesting question. If my child wants to be a science teacher next time, must she take pure science? Of course, I tell you, if your child is really interested to be a science teacher, definitely try your best to go for pure science. Okay, because pure science can teach combined science students next time. But if you are doing combined science, then you want to teach pure, there's a lot of things to catch up. Yeah. Okay. If they have this interest, then most likely they won't be suffering in science as much. Okay. I would actually highly recommend they take double science, if not even triple science.
Okay, there's a
If we
lot of
take
science questions, yeah.
Yeah, if we take combined science in Sec 3 and find it easy, can we change to two pure science? Answer is no. Cannot. If it is possible for you to go from two pure science drop to combined, but you cannot go from two combined go to two pure. One combined go to two pure cannot. Which
Yes.
combined science options is better? In general, the most common one, I would say there's a shift in trend. Now more and more people take biochem. But in the past, a lot of people take physics chem because physics actually help to open up a lot of options in terms of like engineering and stuff like that.
Okay, answer some administrative questions. Would there be another Zoom session for this? Unfortunately, no. But of course, if you have any questions, you can reach out to us on our IG, TikTok, or even our admin line. Okay, any questions, just send us. The two of us and the team will answer any questions you have, lah. Okay, so anyway, you can ask as much questions as you want. So just ask your way through. Okay, next one. What can geography and history help with in the future or for JC and uni courses? Okay, so geog and history very niche, right? So if you are interested, that means you are generally a humanities person. If you want to go JC, then the path that you are going to will be in art stream, right? So art stream, then you can take uh like pure, I mean H2 geog and H2 history. And then of course, if you're interested, then you can do well in those field and then eventually go to uni. So I do have a friend who took history as her major in uni. She became an MOE teacher. Then afterwards she left. She's working at National is National Museum. Is it National Museum? Yeah, National Museum. Yeah. So I think really depends on what your interest is lah. But of course, uh, because I didn't take history at job, so I cannot really tell you what are the uni courses available. But definitely related to your humanities wise. Yeah.
What is the benefit of taking triple pure science since only two pure sciences are allowed for JC? Wow, this is you're totally right. Spot on, man. So you're right. You take triple science now, doesn't mean that when you go JC you can do triple science. Okay? But like I said, first is people who take triple science, you must first have the passion for science. Okay? Why we are taking triple science over here is mainly you want to keep your options open. You do not know exactly whether or not you want to zoom into physics, chem, or bio. So you take everything first. You just generally know that you like science a lot. But when you start going to JC, you have to start thinking which two science you want to focus on.
Okay, does school offer triple science? I'm not sure if you should me answer it. And two humanities subject combination. Last time, yes. Last time in our time, yes. Wow, always push nine subjects, you know. But now I don't think
Now
so
cannot.
much.
Now don't have.
Yeah,
Now don't have.
yeah. Now it's like too much. They don't
Yeah.
encourage you. I mean, if you really you want to go on stage, have 10 A1s, the kind, then okay lah. You can discuss with the principal lah. But I don't think they allow it anymore. Yeah. Okay. A few questions from our Q&A section. Okay. How would you rate the workload and memorizing for double math and double sciences? Double sciences, I think, depends on which two sciences you are taking, right? Is it pure sciences? I assume you're talking about pure sciences, right? So I would say bio definitely more things to memorize. Okay, physics you have formulas. Okay, chemistry remains constant. I have to do memorization also. Double math depends on how good you are in math. I have students who just cruise their way through both math in their entire sec 3, sec 4. But that's because they are disciplined, they do their work very consistently. And then to them, it's just, oh, very, very easy, or everything's also very easy. Okay. Next question. Is there any disadvantage to take single chem and double humanities? You cannot just take single chem. It must be like chem bio, chem physics, or like combined chem and physics or bio. And then you can take double humanities. So yes, you cannot just take single chem. Yeah, yeah.
There's only
One,
one to two schools. Yeah, I think
yeah.
only one to two schools allow you to take single chem. Yeah, so this one please check with your school. It's
Mm.
possible, but I don't recommend. I think in general, if you are already choosing to take one pure science, might as well just take two pure science. Honestly feel is safer, and in general, I would say science requires a lot of foundation from secondary school. Whereas like things like humans, history and stuff like that, you can always pick it up halfway at a later stage. Yeah.
Okay, one administrative question. What was your subject combination? For myself, I took triple science, and then I took one humans, which is SS plus lit. Okay, then also to answer one of the other questions, if not particularly strong in any of the humanities subject, which one is recommended to take? So for my school, we didn't have a choice. If you only take one humans, you must take SS plus lit. Yeah, so must check with your school whether they even offer you any other things now. Because some school like, oh, let's say the school is very strong in literature, then they force you to take SS plus Lit. Yeah. But then is there one that you recommend to take? Really depends on interest. Like whichever that you can score the best. That's always the easiest answer to go for. By the way, teacher Shamini, you can share what is your subject combination.
For secondary school, right?
Yeah, secondary school.
I did physics and chem. And then I did two humans because I knew that my O level results, right? I need to have at least one humans. So I just wanted to be safe lah. So I took two humans. My first human was combined social study together with history. Then my next human is pure geography. Because I know personally I had interest in geography, so I don't mind taking geography. Yeah. Is doing pure job good for business and aerospace? I think there's not much correlation here. Job doesn't really help. But I think what you can do is what we want is if you want to get into business and aerospace, you definitely need the good score, right? So now the question here is which subject fulfill your interest, number one. Second, can help you get a good score so that you can enter these courses that you want. Yeah. Must you
Okay,
take A math if you want to be a doctor?
uh, must you take A math?
Actually,
No.
actually, I would say need it.
Yeah, I need because of the pathway that you have to get
Correct.
to doctor. So you must go JC or you can go
I must go
poly. There's
JC.
but very niche courses.
Must be
Uh,
science. Must be science stream.
yeah, so science stream, right? So to take H2 math and you want to do well in H2 math, A math is very, very important to have. Like not necessary, but if you don't have A math, you're gonna start lacking a lot when you're in H2 math. So I would say not must, but highly, highly recommended. Yeah.
Okay, next. Taking pure geog and combined history SS more beneficial if the child is stronger in geography? Yes, of course. If let's say you know your child is definitely stronger in pure geog, then you should take it as a standalone subject. Yeah. Then but also depends on how many subjects you want to take. Because if let's say you are really very confident that your job will be okay and will be good, then some people don't mind just doing just one humans, which is combined social study and job. Yeah, because you know your job won't mess up, mah. So your at least that one humans will definitely not mess up. Yeah. So you have less subjects to study for lah. Pure job in O level, is it hard to score? Uh I mean I enjoyed it because I personally like the things that they teach in geography. So I think it makes a lot of sense. To me, actually a lot of things are common sense. So I think the only tough part to score is the fact that you need to memorize examples. Yeah, when you are writing certain landforms, when you're writing certain countries and cities, you need to actually name out some of the countries and cities. Yeah. So I would say you want to do well in pure job, you definitely need to I remember I had a lot of consultation last time. Yeah. It I don't think there's a lot of TYS on pure job stuff also. So usually need a lot of consultation.
If I'm interested in humans, I shouldn't take SS, right? Sorry, SS is compulsory.
Yeah, SS is compulsory.
Must, yeah, must take. Everybody in Singapore must take. Okay. Next one, pure job or lead is better. If I'm not good at humanities, but if I don't choose pure humanities, I need to take double science. There is no better subject here, to be very honest. It's really up to your interest and whichever one that you're more confident in scoring. Yeah, so I don't know your child is better at which. I think it's always better to consult them. I mean, eventually, if that's what they're interested in making a career out of it, then I think that will answer your question lah. Okay. What
But
does
in
TY?
my
Sorry.
oh sorry, you say first, say first.
Yeah. Okay. What does TYS stands for? 10-year series. That means the last 10 years of the things that came out for your O levels.
Okay, regarding the pure job or lead better, the one, right? I definitely first, we always go with interest. Because the moment you have interest in something, it's always easier to study for it and then easier to grind for it. Okay, the moment you lose passion and you still want to work hard for the subject, they find that the motivation is not strong enough. Okay, that's the first thing. Second thing is what I noticed is that, for example, there are students who say, "Oh, I like lead a lot," but somehow, no matter how hard they work, they just can't score for lead. Because when it comes to all these qualitative subjects, right, it is very subjective. So sometimes, no matter, it doesn't mean that the more hours you put into this subject, your score will translate, your results will translate. But for math and science, one thing for sure is the more hours you put inside, it will definitely translate. So if you want safer, like if you know your child is the kind who will be hardworking, then do science. It will definitely benefit them. Science and math. Okay, over here there's a FAQ. I just want to share. So just now I was mentioning that poly admission have different criteria. So you have A, B, C, D. So in general, if you are entering using poly group A, like for example, you see some poly courses like in the media, psychology, early childhood, counseling, all these fall under ELR2B2 category A. Then business accountancy will be under B, engineering, IT, science, nursing will be under C, design and architecture will be under D. So for example, right, if you are going into a poly course that's related to media, then you'll notice that your R1, R2, you don't need to have math inside. But for category B and category C, your R1, R2 must have a math inside.
Okay, another question, FAQ. Is it too heavy to take two pure sciences and two humanities? You're looking at, if I'm not wrong, I think seven subjects. Is it seven
Yeah.
subjects or
Oh,
eight
yeah,
subjects?
seven, seven.
Seven. Okay, seven. No, no, eight.
Eight,
Eight
eight, eight, eight,
subjects.
eight, eight, eight. Yeah,
Yeah,
that would
eight.
be sorry. Mm.
In today's era, on the heavier side. Back in our old era, no, that's like the
It's
norm.
normal. Yeah, that's the norm.
So,
Right.
I wouldn't say it is too heavy. I just think you need to know which. Okay, so let's say you are taking SS plus history and then geography. Then you are taking chemistry and bio. Then it's heavy because all four need to memorize. But let's say you're taking physics, maybe you're taking literature, then maybe less things to memorize. Then in that regards, it's not as heavy as you think it is lah. Yeah, so I think it's about being smart of what how content heavy the things that you take are. Okay, and then also are you someone that likes to memorize? If you like to memorize, then no matter how tough the content is, you will still be able to memorize it.
Oh, I have actually a very good advice for everyone. So, before your child decide what subject they want to do, before you help your child decide what subject you want to do, you'll actually be very helpful if y'all can go down with your child to popular, okay? To look at the textbook, to look at the assessment book for maybe like Sec 3 Bio, Sec 4 Chem, Sec 4 Physics. Look at the geography textbook, look at the history textbook, and then just have a look at what are you getting into? Okay, that actually can help you form better sensing of like which subject you should choose. Yeah, rather than just thinking based on nothing. Okay, go down and look at the physical stuff, and then from there, then you'll discuss again.
Can you go up 2 slides?
Back 2 slides, is it?
Yeah, back 2 slides. One more, sorry. Okay, so since there is not a lot of Q&A now, there's only one, so I'm just gonna cut a bit. Okay, I'm gonna go into this FAQ. So I think a lot of parents at Sec 2, they will always think like, oh, okay, my child has E-math tuition at Sec 1, Sec 2, right? Okay, do I keep continuing to have both like E-math and A-math? Okay, so just in case you didn't know, uh, generally speaking, courses for math at Sec 3 level will not be combined together one because it's really not enough time to cover two maths in like 2 hours. Yeah, one math in 2 hours already not enough. So two math in 2 hours even not enough lah. Okay, so if you want to have a general guideline, okay, of whether you need E-math and A-math tuition or you just need one of them. Okay, if let's say you are scoring A1, A2 consistently, so I'm saying consistently not because by luck, by chance you get A1 or A2. Okay, consistently, I think E-math, no. Should be able to handle by yourself for the next 2 years. If Sec 4 you really feel like, wow, I cannot make it really, then you go at Sec 4. Should be okay one because you have the natural ability to do well already in Sec 1, Sec 2. However, for A-math, I would always say definitely good to have immediately once you finish Sec 2. Okay, then Sec 3 want to start, uh, take it really. Because I have a lot of students, E-math really, really doing very, very well, Sec 2, A-math start or drop or die. Okay, not because they are not good, not because they never study, it's just because A-math, the learning curve in the first few months is really, really, really quite scary lah. Okay. However, if you fall below C5 and below, okay, then I think if you are still taking E-math and A-math, okay, it's important that you build your foundation. So you can start off with both. However, let's say you feel, hey, actually E-math, I'm okay 3 months in. Then you quit the E-math tuition, then you just continue with E-math. Because E-math tuition, as in E-math as a subject is not that difficult to deal with lah. Okay, I would think so. However, if you fall between the very weird range of B3 to B4, okay, then depends. Okay, depends on whether you have the financial capability to support it. Okay, and then do you feel like you need it? Because there are some students who actually don't need it, but they feel more comfortable having it. So maybe that's your like solution. Okay. Then someone asked, what is the biggest difference between E-math and A-math? Do the topics overlap? Need both if want to study medicine and vet. Okay, so medicine definitely, as you said, want to go to JC, right? So A-math confirm need, yeah, not confirm need, like will be really, really good to have lah. Okay, biggest difference. Uh, E-math is, okay, A-math is very technical. Okay, whatever that you study, confirm will come out. Okay, the foundations is like the basics is like all there. Okay, but then what you apply to is a bit different. Okay, for E-math is a bit more, I would say, applicable to real life context, like more layman. Okay, where you are applying to things like everyday things, for example, bubble tea, the cup, okay, like shapes, like geometry, yeah, like maybe your bottle is bigger or smaller, that kind of thing. So it's very real life applicable. For A-math, if you want to do engineering, physics stuff, okay, like your gradient, your rate of change, all these things, then A-math is the subject that covers that different, even though the techniques are quite similar. Okay, but A-math is definitely much more in depth.
Okay, so that's the end of our webinar. So we will just hang around a bit more, just to in case you have any more questions, we will be more than happy to answer them. So if not, those people who have no more questions, right? Actually, we are done. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Okay.
Okay. If not, really appreciate everyone for staying late with us.
Thank you. No
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
worries.
Thank you.
Welcome, welcome. Thank you, thank you. Thank you.